almost 10 o'clock. Probably hear David mowing in the background. I'm going to try to clean up my little jewelry making bin. It's in a pretty rough shape after I tore through it making stuff the other day. Got a lot of ideas. I've got to get my crafting back on here really soon. So that I can get some stuff done. David only goes to like 3 vendor sales a year, so when he does go, I try to at least make pretty things for him to take with him. I know it's early. Y'all are used to me being on late, and I have on my mowing shirt. Sorry, I do have on a bathing suit top, but this is how I tan. I'm getting rather tan this year. As y'all can tell, I'm pretty healthy this year. I'm getting rather tan this year. But I wanted to talk about, I wanted to come in here and vent in just a little bit. Okay, the little guy in the George Floyd case, the little tower. Anyway, the little cop that was just standing there basically directing traffic, he was the lowest of the low on the low level of the cops. He was sentenced today, but he was sentenced to more time than the prosecutors actually asked for. Oh, update on the little deer. He's in the garden eating this morning. We've decided just to let him eat. And if Mama doesn't show back up in another couple of days, we're going to ask one of the wildlife refuge places just come get him. They're poised and waiting. But anyway, the Tao, the little cop that was just basically being a perimeter. He was the lowest of the low on as far as like the importance roster, and had no authority over the other cops there because he was low dog on the totem pole. Was just sentenced to jail, prison, and he got more time than the prosecutors asked for. This judge took it upon themselves to amend the sentence. Which judges can do that. Don't get me wrong. Judges have the absolute power. And I can't remember the exact number of years that he got, but it was way more than what he should have got for the role he played in the event, because basically he was low dog on the totem pole. He was given a directive to do that job. He was not where he could basically actively see or participate or have, 100% knowledge of what was going on. His job was the safety of the people on the perimeter. We're getting in this nation to a nation where we just want to punish. We just want to punish people. We want to fudge the rules so bad that we can punish people for anything. We just want to punish people. But when we see someone actually do a truly horrific crime, we want to have empathy. So we have empathy for the evil, but we have no sympathy for those that are just trying to have a sane existence and do their job. So there's empathy for evil, but there's no sympathy for the sane. Where do you think society is going to go if we keep doing this? These small minor infractions have built up to be the new way that we treat each other. And I'm sorry, we treat each other like crap. I'll give you an exact point in case in just a second. But look at these beautiful bison bone red beads that my little friend in Oklahoma makes for me. Maybe I just put half of it in the wrong bin. He's a little old native man that he just loves to sit, and he's got all the machines that turn these, and he loves it. And I'd rather pay him as somebody that makes them on a manufacturing line. So I pay my little friend, and he's a little old guy. He sits and he makes these little bison beads. And I have another patch on my finger that's about broken, but I patched the other one to match it, so I'll do the others later. But these have such a pretty color to them, and they're buffalo horn, bison horn. But so we have created a society to where the law is out the window. We now prosecute based on emotion. What is emotion? Oh, emotion is the weakest framework your body and mind can be in. So we're running our nation and its laws and creating laws based on the weakest structure your body and mind can be in. I mean, does that sound like it's going to work, y'all? I mean, does that sound like a healthy, prosperous nation that's got its crap together? No. Not sure doesn't. No. And I'm not saying that some people don't need to be punished. Actually, some people do need to be punished above a sentence request that a defense team puts in, or above a plea deal that both sides agree on. Certain times judges do need to step up and say, oh, no, that's not going to work for me, because sometimes they do come up with really craptastic plea deals that just are not good. But for the most part, the rule is, once everybody has signed off on it, normally, it adheres to state law and gives them a healthy time to become remorseful about their behavior and to learn a better way to be while thinking over how they got into prison. The baby deer is in the garden eating this morning. He when David started mowing, he kind of ran back to the thicket to hide. Still no sign of Mama, so I'd say probably toward the later part of the week, the little wildlife lady that lives the other end of the county probably come out and take him if they can get him caught. I ain't going to help him catch him. It's something I can't do. But he's eating good. So that's a good thing, but Mama's not coming back, and Mama's not been back around, and I don't know what happened to Mama. And we got so many coyotes, I can imagine what happened to Mama, but we're going to just go ahead and probably just let the refuge come get him. But he's hanging out, and every time I heard a bump last night, I check on him, make sure no coyotes were running through the barn lot or getting close or doing locator house close. And when I took Oscar out to potty through the night, I would make a lot of noise. And I left a whole bunch of my lights on last night outside. So, and he makes these bone beads too, these barrel bone beads. They're bone, and he burns. He's got the machinery and stuff, and he burns the images into these. I love this man's work, and I will always pay more for his work than I will ever pay for factory line machine work. Pick people, pay people. Don't pay machines. But this guy, we've got to start learning. This poor man is being punished as severely as the officer that was kneeling on George Floyd because of pure emotion. Pure emotion. Now, normally in murder trials, you can be an accessory and you can get a similar sentence, but not that type of sentence, not that heavy of a sentence. And I'm sitting here going, why, as a nation, is someone not speaking up and saying, hey, this is going beyond the legal framework, that is on the books and is accepted? And why are the judges not doing something? Well, I'll tell you why the judges aren't doing nothing. Because they're pansy asses. Sorry, just going to throw it out there. We have been so weakened by this generation of activists that think that their emotions are everybody's emotions and everybody has to live in the emotional state that I am. And if you're not, then you're a bigot. If you're not living in my head, you're a bigot. And then we have screwed up our whole society. We're so terrified of these people that only understand their push, their momentum, their motivation. They don't see other people's motivation. They don't accept other people's motivation. They see anyone else as irrelevant. Hello, nihilistic, scary red flag. We're being led by the nose by these people. because most people are too scared to say no because we don't know what they'll do next. Well, does that sound like a good plan to hand over our nation? Ow, mother, that hurt. To hand over our nation to a bunch of people that scare us so bad because we don't know what they'll do next? Not to brag, but when I had a bull that I couldn't figure out if he was going to chase me across the field or not, I sent him to freezer camp. Okay, we took the guesswork out of it. Okay, we created a safe place for him to stay until he was somewhere where he could harm no one. You know, there are certain things that we need to do as a society to create those safeties for our society again. And when we see people that live in this emotional framework that accept no one else's emotional framework, but see anyone that's different than them as a war, as a hill to be climbed and a flag to be planted, we need to be taking stock of these people because these are dangerous people. These are dangerous people. Why are they dangerous? Because they see themselves as the law, the alpha, the omega, the person that gets up every morning and shits out the sun. And that is a dangerous place to live as a human being. Because then you do not accept the worth of anyone else. Oh yeah, the woke military. Don't get me started on the woke military. You used to be a military man. Now, and you still meet them. You still meet good military men. But the military has gotten so weak. It's like you meet a military man and you're like, and I have met several that have been through a few years in the military, and they're less capable with firearms than me. They're less capable to maintain property and less able to stealth hunt. Less able. I mean, and I'm just like, did they not teach you nothing in the military? I mean, I would think that stealth, safety, and firearm knowledge is like the, holy trifecta. But no, wars are fought with drones now. The bodies are just, the sea of bubble wrap for our stupid politicians. So they're not taught any skills anymore. We have such a skillless, an unskilled population in this world. And people that just don't care. They just don't care. Oh yeah, there's and it is just crazy. I get so irritated every day when I wake up. And I'm like, okay, so we know that there was X amount of money taken from the southern border and not appropriated correctly, but just basically stolen and applied here before this event happened. Okay, well, we can tell that was bribery move. Why are we not dealing with it? Why won't anyone talk about it? Because we're scared of them. We don't know if we go up to them and go, you can't do that, we don't know what they'll do next. Well, by God, maybe it's time we find out. When I had a horse that bucked me off, I said, okay, son, and I got on it, and we had a rodeo. I said, I want to see what you're capable of. This little flirting with getting me on, getting the girl on the ground, hey, let's just see what you're capable of. Let's just have it out right now. If we're going to fight, let's just do it good. Let's just do it all at one time. And everybody's pussyfooting around each other now. And it's just like, why are we doing this? Every word you say is wrong. Unless you're part of this population, you're a bigot. No, stop that crap. We are all individuals. We are all part of this nation. We should all have the same respect and the same rights under the law. And we should all be able to live in harmony. And just because I live in a different demographic, because I speak differently, because I'm a different color, because I have a different genealogy, a different background, or because I think differently, I have a different motivation, I have a different ideology, I have a little different of a political perspective, that cannot devalue my intrinsic worth as a human being. And a lot of people don't understand that. Because if you're a human being, you have an intrinsic value that cannot be taken away. But we are taking away intrinsic value based on superficial, vapid, ignorant issues. Why? Because we're scared about what these people will do if we tell them no. Saddle up and find out. No. Say it. You can tell people you're unhappy with them without entering into a fight. You can tell someone you're unhappy with their behavior without creating a physical altercation. Case in point, when I was sitting Saturday with David at the Maple Hill RV campground, beautiful little place, serene. Everybody could come up and park. He had the cleanest restrooms. It was a family of people that were selling. We just became a little yard sale family. We were all so sweet to each other. And we loved everybody that brought their pets out. Everybody was really responsible. But there's just one woman, and she was leading the dog, and she was going around looking in every booth, and she let her dog in front of our booth, and we were talking, and I couldn't see because we have a tablecloth. Her dog just left 3 turds in succession in front of our booth. I didn't see the first one, but I saw the last 2, and I said, ma'am, and she looked back and was like, oh, and just kept going, like it was not her fault, it wasn't her issue to deal with. And y'all know how I say that I'm good, I'm great, and I'll be the sweetest person. You will think I am maple syrup tapped straight from the tree until I'm not. When I hit done, I hit it about 90 G's all together, just done. I hit done right then. And I said, ma'am, your dog donated some items to my booth I don't want. Ma'am. And so I got up and I said, well, by God, the crippled lady will get up and clean up your dog's mess. It's okay. Don't feel embarrassed or anything. You're just supposed to be legally responsible for picking up your dog's poop. It was a leash law, and you must bag your dog's debris. It is the law in this little RV park. And so I get me a bag, and I go out there and I pick it up. And she's looking at me, I'm picking it up. I'm like, oh, don't feel bad now. I've totally got it. And she's just like, okay, I knew someone would pick it up. And I was like, that is SORRY. Sorry. I said, if you're going to lead your dog and he's going to do this, I said, come visit me. I'll whittle a little plug. You won't have to worry about it for 5 more minutes till you get done looking at everybody else's booth. And she was like, how rude. I said, excuse me. I said, I offered to fix the problem. I said, that's not rude. I said, dropping deuces in front of my craft vendor site, that's rude. I said, if you can't maintain your animal, go put him up and then go yard sale. And she stood there for me. She looked at me and I said, do you need to have a problem? I said, come here and we will have a problem. I said, but that was rude. And I said, uncalled for. And I said, you should be escorted off the premises. I said, because that was nasty. I said, we've got kids, families, strollers. I said, no, we don't leave dog crap laying. And she finally meandered on off. And about an hour later, when she left, 3 other vendors come over and said her dog must have a problem because it did it in front of our vendor booth too. And we had to clean it up as well. And they said, but we were too scared to say anything. She was in her 30s. The dog had to be 5 or more by the age and the way it looked. Now, when you're in your 30s, you know that if you have a pet, they make messes. And as your pet, you're responsible for their mess. And if I was in that position, I would have been like, oh my God, my dog has made a mess. Excuse me, I have this little bags. I'm going to clean this up. I am so sorry. This is so embarrassing. Let me clean this up. And you have your dog trained to go pot in certain areas at certain times, And if that dog had a problem, then she should have had a diaper on it or something to where it wouldn't have done that. But apparently she was just dropping Easter egg turds all over the yard sale vendor site. And everybody was like, we were so happy to hear you address it. I said, she wouldn't even speak to me. I said, she would not even speak to me. And she watched me clean it up, but she wouldn't even speak to me. It was like, oh, you're beneath me. You may clean that up. And I thought, oh my God, that's your dog. Okay, listen, I don't feed your dog, so this is not my Play-Doh Fun Factory. I did not crank the lever. You did. You cleaned it up. And And the little guy that was from Kentucky beside us, he was laughing. He said, it's not funny. He said, it's not funny at all. He said, that's rude. He said, she should know better than that. He said, what's funny, he said, is she sat there and he said, didn't know how to respond to you. He said, because nobody's ever gone on to her before. And that's what it is. We tiptoe through this society to where nobody has any rules of engagement anymore. It's all fictional up in here, but they're never in practice because we don't really gel as a society anymore. We don't run into people. We don't practice those laws that we used to share, those behavioral, social contracts of this is how we behave when we have to, the Venn diagram, your space, my space becomes airspace. Nobody practices that anymore. Nobody. And I'm like, we need to be practicing this. Practice it. Tell people no. If 2 letters puckers your ass that much, you need to go back to kindergarten and start over in life because you ain't going to do too good. You know? You made me so mad. But there was a family that had a really high dollar stroller and they were like, yeah, we wheeled right through it. And they're like, so we're going to have to bag our stroller and go and sanitize it because one of their children had some kind of disorder. And they're like, so we're FUBAR'd. They're like, we'll have to have the car detailed and everything afterwards because I guess one of the kids had like a GI pipe and everything. And they're like, so we're going to have to bag this, get it home, get it cleaned. Everybody's going to have a bath tonight. And they're like, the stroller is going to have to be taken apart and sanitized, that whole wheel and everything, sanitized. He's like, and then I'm going to have to sanitize and have the vehicle detailed just in case bacteria got in there. And he's like, that's just how careful we have to be. And he said, that's why we came here to do the yard sale because he has a leash law and it's normally a very respectful place. And I said, yeah, so it's a great place. I said, this is the only woman that had this problem. And he said, well, she's just not aware that her behavior is causing others issues. And it's not that she's aware. It's that we don't care anymore. We don't care to stop and think about how our behavior may harm someone else or create a hardship or an issue for them. We do not think about that social contract where my place and your place becomes our place, the public places we share. We don't think about how we have to behave. And so we need to really get behavior back on the radar. Way back on the radar. It's atrocious. Most of the kids around here are pretty respectful to the parents because we're still pretty old school around here. But I saw children say stuff to their parents. I saw a 6-year-old say something to his mother. If it had been my 6-year-old. And I'm going to tell you, I used to have a pile of poop. We had horses here when the kids were young. And I would always have a pile of poop and stalls to clean and fields that needed the poop scooped and flung out. And we would keep a pile of poop so we could move it to the garden every winter until they're in. So when my kids got on my nerves, they got to move the pile of poop. And I don't care if it was perfectly okay where it was. If you sassed me, you move the poop. Because if you're going to poop talk your mama, you're going to move poop. And I just had to look at them. And they go get a pitchfork to start moving that pile of poop. Because they knew, well, crap, across the line, I'm fixing to move the poop for an hour. There are no consequences to society anymore. There's no behavioral line. There's no social contract to the public spaces we share. It is all an emotional free-for-all for whoever can throw the biggest shit fit. I'm sorry, I'm being really rude this morning. Who can throw the biggest shit fit and get the most sympathy thrown their way. Oh yeah, the young parents are absolutely clueless. So clueless. Bless their hearts. Bless their hearts. I feel sorry for the next few generations coming up because they're going to be lost as a ball in high weeds. I'm literally like, I saw children that was like, I'd tie that kid to a mule for 30 days because one of them would come out acting better by the end of the 30 days. A mule is one of those things that will fight back. And if you want to go one way, they will, by God, just want to go the other way. And if you're hateful to them, they'll remember it for 5 years and kick you the first time they know that you ain't looking. A mule is one of those critters that hangs on and holds a grudge and will just do the opposite to be a butthole. And lots of times to teach cows to lead, farmers would tie their cows to a mule. One of them would come out better in 30 days. One of them would be leading. So, I mean, it's just old practice. But I've seen a lot of, it's like all these kids, it's like, we're going to have to be tying all these kids to mules for 30 days to teach them, how to give, because they don't give. They have no flex in their bodies, minds, and souls. And it scares the absolute crap out of me, because that was the biggest issue with every child I saw in state's custody. There was no flex because they had never been taught a structure and how to flex from that structure. They had been taught an emotional acuity that worked to get sympathy, but they had never been taught a societal structure and how to flex within that structure. They had only been taught how to bait people into emotional, sympathetic behavior. What happens when the empathy and sympathy runs out? We're starting to see it in New York, where kids think they're going to get a PS5, and when they don't, they tear their city apart. Do you know how many hind-ends need to switching? Like, seriously? Do you know how much just saying the word no and having a consequence would have helped what happened in New York the other day? Over a game, a fictional world in which they may play that benefits them in no way whatsoever. They destroyed the real world in which we all must live and harmed people. Hello, parents. Code switch. There's a difference between punishment, a spanking, and beating. Teach your children about consequences. You know what I tell my kids as soon as they get old enough to understand graphic representations of life lessons? Consequences rarely come lubricated, so you need to learn about them early and stay away from them, because they hurt when they hit. So for these little kids that get up every morning to poop out the sun, you don't. The world does not revolve around you. And for these adults that think there are no rules that apply to them, the people that have to deal with you are getting really tired. And I'm sorry that no one else will say no to you. I will say no to you. I've had no said to me. I get over it. We need to learn how to say no again. And listen to language. Did anybody hear Nancy Pelosi the other day when she said that, the charges they're bringing against Donald Trump were so much more, she made it sound like they were so much more poetic than what she could have come up with. Oh, Nancy, slip of words. You just told us it was all fiction. And people don't even catch it anymore because they've killed our vocabulary. Words mean nothing anymore unless they incite emotion and create that motivation to harm someone. Oh yeah, I had my kids at 20 and 21. And by the time I was 20, by the time I was 21, I had 2 kids and a mortgage. I've never filed bankruptcy. I have good credit. My ex-husband was a pain in the butt, but, and you try to build a good life, and you think about how you impact your community and the people around you, and you think about how your children are going to impact the community and people around you. And you can't control everything they do, but you can try to give them a rudder that will guide them mostly straight down life's pathway. But we got a lot of people meandering into places they ain't supposed to meander. And we got a lot of people making excuses for these groups of kids that just need a consequence. Oh, they weren't hugged enough as a child. Well, listen, they're not children anymore. They're of the age where they can do physical harm in society. So screw the hugs. The hugs needed to happen 12 years ago. Now we have to change up the game plan. We have to instill a consequence that's probably going to hurt a little bit and make them think. Because right now they're thinking, it's my world, it's not your world. You have to share it with everyone else. And if you are not conducive to society, you go to the pokey. And that's a society within society. And if you can't get along in this society, you don't want to try that society. Because that society's got rules that are not even spoken about that you learn after you've almost been beat to death by your cellmates. You learn the rules after the consequences in that society. But we're not really sending the criminals to prison anymore, are we? We're sending the ambiguous convictions down the river for 5 to 10 years. But the people that are repeat offenders, well, they've just got a problem. Yeah, a big one. A big one. I've seen people that have had 70 plus charges in their life when they were only in their 30s. Why are you still walking around out here? You just need to be in prison. Just make all of his charges consecutive instead of concurrent and send him down the river. He's not conducive to society. Now, I am one of those people that thinks everyone deserves a second, third, fourth, fifth. I want to give everybody chances to change because as a retired parole officer, I saw so many people change their life. And when they change their life and they want to change their life, they shine. And it's beautiful to see. Some people have no desire to shine. And that was hard for me to accept as someone that wanted to see the best in everybody. But boy, I learned it. I learned it in that job. Some people just don't want to shine. Some people would rather be just as evil and nasty as possible because it benefits them in some way, and that's how they've learned to acclimate to the world around them. And it's a shame. It's an absolute shame. It's an absolute shame. And we need to do more. We need to be tougher on these groups of people that go out. We need to stop making excuses for the group, and we need to start punishing the individuals. Because notice when one political party has a group of people go, it's a horrible, horrible thing that could have ceased the world to exist. But when another group of people actually goes out and does more for worse harm and bodily and structural harm to their community, but we need to look at this, and understand what their motivation was because they've had hard lives. Well, yeah, and they're making everybody else's life harder too. So who do we feel sorry for? The person that's trying to live under the law, trying to pay their taxes, trying to be a good Samaritan, a good citizen? Or do we feel sorry for the person that has overstepped their bounds at every opportunity, never worked, refused to be productive, and commits atrocious crimes and doesn't care about destroying property of others? Who do we feel sorry for? Hey, hello? Is it even a choice? You can have sympathy for someone, and even empathy if you've been in that position as well, and apply consequence. And honestly, prison time without some kind of constructive therapeutic intervention does nothing. They just go in and learn bigger tricks to come out with. So why are we not putting more therapeutic intervention into prison programs? Why are we not, these small jails in small counties that hold state inmates, why are we not putting more therapeutic intervention programs in these small jails? Why have they, in the last few years, pulled all the funding for all of those integration programs that used to work to help people integrate back out into society? Why are they almost trying to kill all Bible or religious? It doesn't even have to be like Christianity. Any kind of religious teachings or groups in jails can't happen anymore. Even though it's an option. It's not mandatory. It's an option. Hi, Antoine. How you doing? We got Sly and Antoine for you in here. And this is just something I just want to put up so people can run back through it and listen to and think about. And and I, when we go other places, and we're like, well, have you ever come to the 127 corridor sale? And then, oh no, we wouldn't shop there. We hear that's a bad town. It's a bad town. Yeah, they're very backwards there and don't like people like us. What's people like you? What, young families? Well, we're not the demographic that lives there. America's a melting pot. We're really not into the whole demographic thing. I mean, we had such representation at our little Maple Hill RV campground. Such representation of, oh my gosh, 5 or 6 cultures. I ran into 4 different tribes of natives. What was it? Oh, there was a guy there that was he was there from South Carolina with his family selling some stuff, and he did some trucking work, but he also did like landscaping, and he had the most awesome headset that could like shut out the world because he kept walking past. And I kept noticing his headphones, and finally he passed. And I was like, hey, your headphones are really awesome. Come here, I want to see. I've never seen anything like them. So he was over. He said, I didn't know what you're staring at, and I was like, oh, your headphones are awesome. And he said, well, I wanted to say hi last time. He's like, but I didn't know what. He's like, I didn't know what you were staring at. I was like, oh, your headphones are awesome. I said, let me see him. He had him right over, and I was like, I don't even remember the name of them now. We talked about them. They shut out the world. I was like, oh, these are awesome. I wouldn't hear my husband snore. And I said, what's your name? And he goes, Jamario. And I said, do you have a nickname? He goes, Jamario. And I was like, okay, Mario. I was like, I'm Elizabeth. Just call me Liz. And he just kind of chuckled. And then he's like, if you're looking for something like that, you need truckers headphones. And I was like, oh my God, I hadn't even thought about that. We had the best discussion. I said, y'all having a good time here? He said, yes, this is the friendliest place. He said, we've been to 2 different restaurants up and down this road. He said, everybody's super sweet. He said, we went into town. They was having a street festival. He said, Mama got her some stuff from some street vendors. He said, such a sweet place. This is a pretty little town. And he said, we just came here because it was the headquarters of the event. And I said, yeah, a lot of people do. And he said, we kind of worried because everybody kept saying you don't go into Appalachia. But since it was the headquarters of the corridor sale, we thought, well, this is the greatest place to be. And he said, this has been the best little place to stay. And he said, so quiet, nice, everybody's so sweet. And he said, I was looking around. Me and Mom started looking around. He said, y'all have got Chinese culture here. He said, you've got a large Spanish and Latino population here. And he said, you've got a lot of native indigenous people here. And I said, yeah. So we've got a little bit of everybody. And I said, we love them all. And he goes, y'all are the friendliest people here. He said, I swear. He said, me and Mom have been so happy. He said, we're going to come back on vacation here. And I said, well, you come back. And I said, you find another better set of headphones. I said, you better call me up, tell me. I said, because I'm always on the lookout for good headphones. Because y'all, when I listen to music, I want the rest of the world to go away. And those were the most awesome headphones. But he said trucker headphones were better. So, yeah, he was so great. But he was like, I didn't anticipate this area being like this. He said, for what what people say on the news and on the social medias. And he said, but this is a great place. I said, yeah. I said, people lie a lot. And he was like, so I was kind of scared when you were staring at me. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I said, I didn't mean to scare you. I said, I was just really invested in trying to see that little tag on those headphones. And he was like, well, it's nice to meet you. And we talked probably half hour. Sweetest little feller. And he's a big old burly, but he's like Ferdinand the Bull. He didn't have meanness in him at all. He's a sweet little guy. Hi, what is it, Sooner History? I am blind. I need my glasses on. Yeah, I love headphones that shut out the world. So I had to ask him, and I'm so glad that our little area represented so well. Because we do have stupid people here that do stupid things, but 99% of us are good people, and we love our people that move in here. We embrace them, and as long as you're productive and you love the land, which is like the vibe here in this area. You're productive, you love the community, and you take care of your land. You're good, because that's the vibe here. Is we love our land, we're stewards of our land, and we want a good community, and we want workers, we want hard workers, and we want people that will give the community, hard work and effort too. And you're fine if you're here. That's all there is to it. So it was nice to meet him and talk to him. But Lord, that woman that led that dog around that pooped everywhere, to be in your 30s and not know you need to pick up your dog's crap, and just people's mentality, they just don't think about others. We're seeing it now. These kids have gone through these very liberal universities. These, everyone now must become an activist if you go to college. My biggest, and some of my generation were trying to do that. And I would sit in the class and be like, but why? And my professors would be like, well, because this. And I'm like, no, that's not really how that occurred. And he's like, well, how would you know? Because I'm part of that tribe. That's not how that occurred. And I was like, if you're going to tell history, you need to tell it correctly. And they were trying to create activists then. And I was like, the stick in the mud, because I'd be like, well, why would he would be like, you get extra points if you want to come and do this. And I'd be like, you could get arrested for doing that. Why? Extra credit should not be a possible misdemeanor offense. Sir, I have a problem with this. They were starting it already back then. And now we've got this whole generation where everyone's an activist about something except their own lives. They'll go out and change your life, but if you go follow them home, they have a crappy apartment or live in a basement or bunk up with 17 other people. They have nothing that they're proud of. They do not present themselves as if they're proud of themselves. They have nothing that they care for more than themselves. So all their money goes to stuff to emotionally make them feel better, but their life is very empty when it comes to real, tangible happiness. And they think that everyone else should be miserable too. And so they see somebody that has a mowed yard and a painted porch and a little bit of flowers in a pot, and they're like, well, they think they're so much better than me. No, they don't. They just get up every morning and go, wouldn't my porch look brighter and happier and make me feel better if I'm sitting next to a petunia in a pink pot? Wouldn't that make a cheery area to enjoy my coffee? Wouldn't that lift the mood? Put a funny sign on the porch so that maybe the mail carrier gets a chuckle. We think about other people. We just don't go through life, wake up and go, I want a Starbucks. I guess I'm going to wear my shirt that will incite someone to speak to me nasty so I can scream at someone today, because that's how I get my endorphins going. And then after that, I guess I'll go and find some lawn to stand in and a sign to hold so I can scream at someone else for being a bad person. And it's like, wait, did you take stock of you today? Are you checking in with you, or are you just watching other people? Because the only one that can live your life is you. The only person that can change your life is you. And if you really understood that, you would be more invested in your life than someone else's. So why is everybody invested in someone else's life? Because they're empty, they're angry, they're frustrated. And what does that act out like most times in the psychological component? When you're angry and frustrated, it comes out as a defense mechanism, and you normally harm others because you feel harmed. So I look at our beaten and battered society, and I'm like, we have been mentally harming. Mentally, all we've taught in the last 2 generations is about how unfair the world is, how unfair everyone will treat you, and how horrible it is to have to fight the fight to get the man off your back. We've never taught them, hey, look, the sky is blue, the sun is beautiful. It's nice to sit in a field of daisies and make a daisy chain. There are simplistic enjoyments in life that can give you a dopamine serotonin hit that is way more effective than crashing a 5 Below or lifting some Air Jordans. You know, and so they seek out their chemical highs in very atrocious manners because they've not been taught about self-maintenance, self-love, self-care. They're supposed to get everything from everyone else. Take it if you must. But everybody has been turned into a sucker fish. They don't think anything comes from within anymore. You got to take it from someone else. We're all sucker fish for some reason now. And I get so frustrated when you see that defensive posturing, and you know it's anger, it's frustration, it's malice, it's the way they've been raised, it's the way they've been taught. They have no coping mechanisms, no coping skills, and you didn't give them to them. Government programs, after school programs, government fed daycares. You just taught them how to suck their thumb and watch a cartoon and reenact it. You didn't teach them how to get along and be a society, blend, love each other. You fed them a bunch of horse shit. We're the only nation that keeps government-funded programs going that said they were going to benefit the family, that destroyed the family over 60 years ago. Why are these government programs still going? Why are people still putting their children in these governmental programs when it bombs the family, when it fails your children, when it creates a generation of assholes? Hello? Let's stop funding that governmental program. It didn't do what it said it was going to do. False advertising, okay? It let us down. Do away with it. Send those politicians home. Ashley says it's the same way here on YouTube. If you say something wrong they don't agree with, they spend a month posting videos about you. People tend to leave me alone. But, you know, I worked in law enforcement for a long time, and I'll call you bluff. And I'm very open. And, you know, and some days I have days where, you know, there's always one in the room, butthole. And some days it's me, you know. But I try to really talk about things that affect the world that I've seen, that I've dealt with. I've cared for teens in state's custody because of violence and addiction and trauma issues. I've supervised murderers and violent offenders. I've worked with teens that should have been in prison that were put in wilderness boot camps. You know, and then I've done individual counseling and group counseling for drug addiction and every other issue you can imagine with individual counseling. At the base root of everyone's problem is, do you love yourself? How are you going to show yourself that you love yourself? And if you can't ever find a way to show yourself that you love yourself, then you start showing others how you hate them. Those are the two types of people in the world. That's it. Do I love myself? How do I show myself I love myself? Or do I hate myself and I show everybody else how I hate them? That's the two type of people in the world. That's it. And you make every consecutive decision based on that framework. That's it. Hey, Gypsy. Self-love is very powerful because if you can't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. If you don't practice it, then, you know, you won't go out and repeat it. So self-love is very important. And it's powerful just to even talk about, like those kids that were being boogers and when I worked at the camps and stuff. I would be like, look, I'm here and I'm here for you. I'm here to help you through this problem. But do you know that my best morning hopes were to come in today and get my coffee, hike out to campsites and see children that had slept good, woke up fresh-faced, ready to go to their education testings, ready to go to their physical activities, ready to go see their counselors, and everyone was going to have a good day, and we were not going to have anyone struggle today. We were going to have smiles and laughter. I said, that's what I got up and prayed for this morning. So that's what I wanted to see. And I said, it hurts me to come here and see you hurting. I said, but do you ever look at your other campmates? I said, because we've been sitting here for 3 hours with your problem. Do you ever look at your other campmates and go, I'll sit here for 3 hours for your problem too? I said, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I said, so, everybody's day has been messed up, but I said, I expect the next time your campmates have an issue that you sit as patiently and quietly as they have, and you show them the same respect. And I said, I didn't have the day at work I wanted to have today. I said, so I'm going to go home this evening and have my evening at home with my family be as wonderful as possible. I said, because that's what I wanted for my day today. I said, and maybe tonight, I said, after y'all how out, it's how out is how they ended their night, put out their campfires and went to bed. I said, maybe tonight after you how out, you will think about what kind of day you're going to create tomorrow. I said, because it is within your power to determine what day you're going to create. And lo and behold, we start seeing these kids start understanding I am in charge of more than I think I'm in charge of. And those small decisions stack up into big behaviors. And to change these big things, you just take it apart and change the small components. It's like reading a book. That book may be that thick, but if you take it page by page, you're going to get through it. Well, that's life too. And boy, them pages, you don't skip chapters. Them pages are full of information you need to live and live well. And we've just got a whole generation that's never cracked open a book, doesn't care what they can learn from somebody else. They think that they were born with all the knowledge downloaded in their head. This is the only realistic reality they think exists. They don't understand that everybody lives in their own reality, and they don't understand that their reality, my reality, when we're together, we have to have a social, our reality, where we all have to follow the same rules to get along. And we got to start talking about this. We've got to start talking about this. Got to. Well, I tutored for AmeriCorps and was always working closely with the school. So my kids went to public schools, but my mother was a teacher in the elementary public school they went to, and I tutored for AmeriCorps, and I always did after-school programs with the community schools. So I was very invested in the schools that my children went to. When they went to high school, I was not as invested in the high school, but I would still show up if there was an issue. I would show up and take care of it. And so I always knew what was going on. Even though I was working many, many hours a week, I knew what was going on. I was very active. Homeschooling is great, but listen, they're going to have to learn how to live in society at some point. I think probably homeschooling till about second grade is probably good. Get their reading above average, get their math skills above average. But then they need social skills at about that third grade level, because their bodies are starting to mature, their personalities are starting to mature. And it's very important that they put into practice behaviors so that they learn how to my space, your space, our space. That's so important. And so many people don't get that. Actually, yes. That's what we have. We have a society full of that. Yes. And it's like everybody in society is the kids in the backseat going, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. And it's like, just freaking touching and get it over with. Just do it. Call the bluff. Do it. Oh, Lord. So it's just, it's socialization skills are a must. And sometimes that slips when you homeschool because you get so busy and focused on the education. And so some people allow that to slip. And it's just as dangerous for them to think that that's the only world as for the kids that live in the bad side of things. I think that's the only world. We have to be aware, And so I would, when my kids would throw a fit, like my daughter threw a hellacious fit. She was just, and I was like, listen, just get it out and then we'll get with the punishment. And I said, but I'm going to time you. And I timed her. I said, just keep going. Come on, get it all out. Just get it out there. Vent, come on. It was like a minute 38. I said, a minute 38. I went to Google, a minute and 38. What happens on the world in a minute and 38 seconds? Stats for a minute and 38 seconds on the world. What happened, And I was like, oh, and the time that you screamed at your mother over not having the perfect pink color for a photo, a group photo, which will mean nothing to you in 6 months, 11 children in Ethiopia have died of starvation. Nope, I don't feel sorry for you. There are bigger fish to fry in the world, young lady. We ain't running to Walmart for a different shade of pink. No. You will wear what you have and be thankful that you have it. But I also had Mom's Bank. So when they were bad, I had a big Tupperware bin. I took things. And I took the things they liked. And they had to earn it back with interest. So if they did something really bad or they needed to be punished, I would take away the things they loved, the clothes, jewelry, accessories, stuff like that, shoes, boots. The rhinestone belts were a biggie for my daughter. She couldn't live without those. That was Mom's Bank. And it said Mom's Bank. That was my bank. And they had to, and they couldn't like do community service and work it off. I needed to see unexpected acts of kindness. That's how they paid Mom's Bank. They couldn't set up and say, "Oh, I'll do this on Saturday for you," or "I'll do." No, I need to see you make unexpected good choices on the fly, and then I'll reward you. So they knew I was watching them at all times. This is not something you could just chain gang work off and you could be a butthole, but then go do your job and get your stuff back. Oh, no. I watch you 24/7. And when you had an unexpected burst of kindness or you did something that I didn't think that you would behave that well about, you can get 3 items out of my bank. You earned that. That was very nice. Thank you. I appreciate that behavior. It worked so well. They appreciated everything they had. You know, and it yeah, do it without me telling you to do it. That's what I wanted to instill. We had a sign by our door, and every first week of school, and it's basically all during the school year, it said, be friends with someone no one else wants to be friends with. Show kindness where you see kindness not being shown. And that's always what I wanted my children to do. And so that's what I instilled upon them. Now, as adults, have they always done what I want them to do? God, no. They can be real pains in my hind end, and I've got one right now that is like a wedgie crawling up my ass. Because he just having a moment. But I know underneath there, I taught them well. And they will always come back to that teaching after they have their little moment. But I don't have children that go out into society and make it worse. When I get feedback on my children, I'm like, that's the most respectful young man or young woman, or they were so sweet and they stopped and helped me do this, and I'm just like, thank you, I appreciate you giving me good feedback. I worked really hard on raising them, you know. And but you know, let me tell you something. Kids are their trial and error, you know, and that it doesn't happen. It doesn't stop when they're 18. It keeps going. But you just have to hope that you gave them the correct tools. And I'm saying that I gave mine better tools than most parents, but they can still create huge issues. You know, we can all create huge issues. But I do get a lot of positive feedback on my children's behavior. Of course, they're grown now. Well, I'm always so happy when I see good people fostering, because when I counseled, I was terrified of some of the foster parents I saw. And I would be like, I have an issue. We need to discuss something. I have a concern. And the foster care review board probably did not like me that much, but I don't care. I was there to make sure the safety and emotional needs of those children were being met. And so that's what I talked about. And it's difficult, you know, these kids that if you're different anyway, it's like a white turkey in the wild. The rest of the flock will turn on them because you broke our camouflage. You put us all at danger, and they just attack. And that's kind of what I feel like society is right now. You know, if you don't blend in, they just attack. You know, and it's what 20 years ago it was, you need to stand out and be unique. Well, now being unique is a status quo, And I heard somebody say, "Oh, the most beautiful pronouns I've ever heard." There was like zero pronouns or zero. I don't anyway. Their pronouns so personalized that they can't even be spoken. They're created by the person, and mentally they see it and hear it, but we can never know because they're so personalized. We could never speak them. Okay, so you want me to go back and tell my ancestor Sequoia that he created his own alphabet to mimic the English alphabet because he saw such great things happening because of communication in the written word, that now we are taking all that apart, and we don't need written words. We just need thoughtful words to make us feel good. We don't need to be able to share them with other people. Communication is not important. ¿Qué pasa? I'm like, what? But if you can't communicate, you can't debate. If you can't debate, you can't win the argument. They break down the vernacular because then that impedes the focus and structure and determination of the judicial system. Because if you break down the words, you break down the law. And if you break down the law, you break down the culture. It's a 3-step program. And we're somewhere between the second and third right now. Because our law is no longer the law in the books. Our law is now being emotionally pushed by these nihilistic turds that don't understand that society is a conglomerate of different realities, people, perspectives, and things. They think it's only their reality, and it must be dictated by their reality. It must go their way. So they are now in control of our judicial system. So we are seeing sentences being put out that don't go along with sentence management and law, legal code at all. So we already know that our judicial system is broke down. So the last step is the culture is disassembled. Well, look at our culture already. We're already halfway there. How do we fix this? We stand up, we say no. We're proud about who we are no matter what it is. We live our life and we show service to others. We don't just think about ourselves. And we find something to be above us to hold us accountable. I don't care if you pray to your cat booger. Find something that you have to be accountable to. Because if you think you are God, you're on a slippery slope. Life's not going to go well for you. And that's kind of my rant for the morning. That's where I've been. All because that woman let her dog crap in front of my table at the yard sale. But it really, there's a culmination. There's a recipe to this disaster. And if we start pulling out certain ingredients, the final recipe will change into something else. We need to start pulling out certain ingredients that we're not okay with. We need to start taking people at face value, having real interactions, not being scared to state our opinions and our way of thinking, and understanding that it's not just the loudest and most angry people that change the world. Sometimes it's the people that can just stand silently in high numbers and show kindness and goodness and radiate a heart love that can really create change. Because a lot of these people that go out to create chaos, they know that chaos begets chaos. Frustration begets frustration. And if we could just have a consequence and move on instead of starting these culture wars, these ideological factions, we'd be fine. Because I don't, I know where I come from. My daddy's Irish and a little bit of German. My mama is native and mixed with a little bit of everything. But that doesn't dictate my worth. It doesn't dictate how I'm going to treat somebody. But I should know who I am, and I should be able to be proud about that. And I get so irritated when we see a judgment call just based on the appearance of a group. Stop judging the group. Find the individuals. Judge by motive. Don't judge by anything else. Look at that person's heart. Look at their motivation. That's where you're going to find your problem. If you can fix it, fix it. If not, issue a consequence and move on. We've got to take it down to the individuals and stop this group identity, this tribalistic mentality. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. We've got to get back to caring about the individuals and stop hiding in these groups and thinking that we're something because we belong to this group. No. Who are you? You. Your DNA spiral. You. How do you carry yourself? How do you act? How do you treat others? You. Stop hiding in your group. Be responsible, be accountable for you. Oh, I know I could talk about this forever, but at the end of the day, that's what I wanted to say. Be responsible, be accountable, find the positives, and stop letting people run over you. Say no. Have a difference of opinion. Do it kindly if at all possible. And it's okay to show people that you don't appreciate certain behaviors. It doesn't have to create a war. You can tell people I didn't appreciate that. Maybe they'll learn. And now the lady who leads the dog, I don't think she'll learn anytime soon. She's probably a lost cause. But other people that were watching came up to me and they're like, thank you so much for saying that. We followed that dog and we've stepped in crap all day. Why didn't you say something to her? Stop being scared to have an opinion and a difference of perspective and to say your piece. Stop thinking that only, one faction of this nation is allowed to have a perspective and opinion and open their mouths. No. Everybody needs to open their mouth. So everybody speak your piece. Do it kindly. But be honest. And let's start individually holding people accountable, ourselves included, and start swaying society back to a more loving society. Because I'm here to tell you, the more farther apart we get, the more tribalistic we get, and the more of our social interaction that comes from this stupid little box, the worse it's going to get. Because there's no energy here. You can't see the body language, the posturing. You can't learn to read people. You can't learn anything important about society in this little box. I mean, it's great. I get to meet some great people, but it doesn't replace actual physical interaction and learning how to interact within society and learning to read people and get that energy swap, refill your battery on good people, feel it get depleted on bad people, but understand that there is an energy swap with people. We're energetic people. How we touch and care for each other affects us mentally, physically, emotionally. I just don't think anybody understands that anymore. That's what I want you to understand today. So as you go out today, try to have positive energy, positive interactions, and show love and kindness. And if you have to be firm in a kind way, but don't ever be too embarrassed or too ashamed to state your perspective. You're allowed to have it. They don't have to agree with it. If I printed t-shirts, I would literally just put my rant of the day on every t-shirt and just walk out the door and just let people know, here I come. This is my problem today. And have on the back, if you want to talk about it, let's talk, but we've got to get over this fear of trying to diffuse this bomb that is being created by these little tribalistic groups and our media, fork-tongued media. So look for integrity, honesty, and positive motivating factors, and look for good people and find good people. And don't be scared to separate and put a boundary between you and bad people. And if you want a good life, you'll create a good life. If you want a bad life, you'll create a bad life. You normally generate what you desire. Now start watching the news, and you'll see things differently. All right. Hubby's now mowing on the side of the yard I can mow, so I'm going to go help my husband, and then I'm going to make dinner. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for sticking with me, Levians. Think for yourself. Do your research. Speak for yourself, and love for yourself. Have a good day.